Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live this morning, and hope you're having a great day here as we're going to talk about gout this morning and what it is and what it isn't. And the reason we're doing that is because we're talking about the kidneys. And yesterday we went into some detail on that. Good morning, Nick and Nativity and John from Elgin, Illinois, and Rose and Michael from Wawa. Good to have you on this morning. Big crowd, and even for Labor Day Monday yesterday, it was a really good crowd. I was surprised really by it. But good to have you on this morning, and hope you're having a great day. And I'll say hi to a few other people here. Phyllis and Evangeline from Cape Breton. I think, what's the date today? I think I would have been in Cape Breton if COVID. I was invited to speak on a cruise from Boston to Newfoundland to Quebec City. And of course, all that was canceled. And I was going to do at least 3 seminars there. And one of them, one of the stops was Cape Breton. I was so looking forward to going there. But perhaps we will do that next year. Jeanette, good to have you on us, Brianna, Annette, and Donna, and Betty from Tiny Beaches. Corrine from Moonbeam. Okay, nice to have you on. Vicky and Jean and Micheline, bonjour. Good to have you. Laura from New Liskeard. Joss from Sturgeon. And Madeleine, how are you? Good to have you on with us this morning, okay? So, what we're going to talk about is uric acid. Okay, so yesterday we talked about oxalates. They're from the plant kingdom. They're from legumes and salad. And we talked about that yesterday, okay? Somebody asked me yesterday, Dr. Martin, do you eat salad? Yeah, not often. But I do have veggies, guys. I'm not telling you never to have them. Of course, when you're doing a 30-day cleanse, no veggies, because I don't want you having any oxalates. If you have or you know anyone that suffers with kidney stones, then understand this, that they're either oxalates or they're uric acid crystals that form stones. Now, when you think of uric acid, most people think of gout. And gout is no fun. Gout is like on steroids today. It's so frequent. And I'm going to tell you why. Kidney stones are gone up 80-90% from 50 years ago. We talked about it yesterday. The dehydration. Look at your kidneys as Niagara Falls. It's a big issue in society. And one of the worst issues about it is that we don't have a little light flashing on the top of our heads that says dehydration, dehydration, add water, add water. We don't have that mechanism. And trust me when I tell you that with the clinical experience over the years, that water, like Niagara Falls, needs to be flushing out those kidneys. Your kidneys and your lungs, kidneys and your lungs, kidneys and your liver, are detox organs. Your kidneys flush out impurities through the urine. Your liver detoxifies your blood. Your lungs expel carbon dioxide. You need to keep those lubricated with water. Water. Okay, we talked about that. Now let's talk specifically today about uric acid. And here's what it is not. Google it, and you will read that uric acid, and it could be causing kidney, but it is a kidney issue. It's not necessarily causing stones, but you're going to get, a lot of people get gout. A lot of people have inflammation in their joints, and they don't realize it's uric acid. They don't realize it. Because it could be chronic and not acute. You see, usually gout, people have this thing where you get a gout attack, it's acute and it's very painful. True. But there's chronic uric acid in the joints. But not only in the joints. Uric acid is part of metabolic syndrome. And I will come back to that. Having high levels of uric acid. But here's what it is not. It is not purines. Purines, by the way, everybody put your hand up and you can say this. I make purines. Because everybody does. Because purines are a byproduct of your metabolism. They're a byproduct. They're a breakdown of any time you produce ATP. What is ATP? It comes out of the mitochondria of your cells. It's fuel. One of the byproducts of fuel is purines. You make them. And so if you Google this, Google gout, and I guarantee you that 99.9% of the information that you get online about gout is that it's caused by high purine foods. And stay away from seafood, especially shellfish and sardines and crabs and and organ meat and red meat and lamb, and don't eat turkey because they make purines. Well, don't be a turkey and listen to that. It's not purines. You make 10 times more purines than you can eat just by eating food. You're making purines. The problem isn't the purines. The problem is at the kidney level to flush out the purines that can be converted to uric acid. Uric acid, by the way, your body makes it. It's an antioxidant. The problem is when at the kidney level, you're not excreting it properly. So it goes back to that. It goes back to that. And that's really important because some kidney stones are uric acid. Gout, uric acid, but it's not caused by that. It's caused by insulin. It's caused by insulin. You see, one thing about insulin and insulin resistance. Now, you know what that is? That's when your cells go, hey, get out of here. I'm so tired of seeing you. Remember the little illustration I used last week about the neighbors? If they're always in your house? The book of Proverbs talks about that. Don't go to your neighbor's house every day. They're going to get tired of you. The problem in the world today, numero uno, is insulin. We use it too much. I know that sounds simplistic, but it's absolutely true. We use insulin way too much. So what happens? Your cells don't like it anymore. And the illustration of the key in the lock that's jammed. But remember, insulin has a job to do, and no matter what, it will do it. Until it can't. That's diabetes. But 88% of the population have trouble with insulin resistance. They're metabolically unhealthy. And when insulin is at a high level, the body's response to insulin resistance, one of the responses is inflammation. Inflammation, repeat, is not Houdini. You don't get inflammation from uric acid. Your body makes uric acid. You don't get inflammation from purines. Your body makes purines, much more than you eat. It's insulin. And insulin resistance, high circulating insulin. That's the Martin Clinic little lingo that we call it. It's insulin, hyperinsulinemia. You want a medical word? It's not high circulating sugar. It's high circulating insulin. But sugar and crappy carbohydrates are at the root of high circulating insulin. You see, what comes first is insulin. Way before somebody becomes a diabetic. Metabolically, you're not right. So if you know anybody with gout, you know people with inflammation in their joints. A lot of times it's not diagnosed, but they have hyperinsulinemia, high circulating insulin, or insulin resistance. All the same word. It creates inflammation, disease without a fever. It's not an infection, although your body thinks it is. Your body gets duped. And uric acid, instead of being peed out, you see, uric acid is supposed to be converted to urea and peed out. What's another reason to drink a lot of water? Pee it out. And that can form stones. We talked about oxalate yesterday, and another form of stone is uric acid stones. That happens a lot. But inflammation is not the cause, but it's at the root too of what goes on with kidney stones. And remember what I told you yesterday. The first thing that happens with high circulating insulin is inflammation, and inflammation affects the circulatory system. That's why cholesterol is not the problem in heart disease. I've said that 10,000 times, and Lord willing, if I live longer, I promise you, I'm going to say it another 10,000 times. It ain't cholesterol. It ain't fat that you're eating. It's not purines. It's not. And it's not a lack of a medication called alpurinol. I mean, hundreds and thousands, no, millions of people in North America, millions, are taking a medication called alpurinol so that you don't make uric acid. You want to destroy your kidneys? Take out alpurinol. Anyway, because they're not, it's managing it. It's managing it, but it doesn't fix it. You're creating another problem with permanent damage to the kidneys. The kidneys regenerate, folks. The kidneys regenerate. Okay, so what it isn't is purines. It's inflammation caused by insulin. And that's just the way, for some people, they get affected by that. Remember, I remember when I was in school, we used to call gout the king's disease. And all they could see was the king, I don't know, this was the vision I had in my mind, is the king, sort of sitting back on a sort of a couch-like thing, And the king was fat, overeating. Everybody else was skinny, but the king, he was the only one who could afford to eat. I'm thinking they actually called it the king's disease. The issue wasn't the meat he was eating, because they always said, well, the peasants weren't eating much meat, but the king was. So the lie came out of the purines from the meat. Eating oysters and things like that. People couldn't afford that. That was sort of the medical, the textbook on gout. But what they didn't realize is what was the king drinking? It was alcohol. The king was drinking too much wine and beer. The worst things for gout. If you have gout, you got to become a teetotaler. No, be a coffee totaler. I don't know who made up the teetotaler thing. I like coffee better. It's an antioxidant. It's an anti-inflammatory. Coffee. Vitamin C on the hit parade. But listen, there's a lot of things. Alcohol, if you have trouble with inflammation in your joints, is really going to bother those joints big time. Because it elevates your insulin immediately. It does not pass go. It goes directly to the liver. Your body responds with an inflammatory response. Now, I'm just telling you about, if you want to get rid of uric acid, you want to get rid of gout, you must lower your insulin. And one of the ways to lower your insulin is to lower alcohol. Yep. Number 2, numero 2. Duo. lower your fruit intake. Don't eat God's candies very much. No more bananas. No more apples. No more grapes. They're too sweet. Fructose. Fructose is a major contributor. And of course, listen to what I'm going to say. Why is there so much gout? There's a sugar that man made. God didn't make it. Man made this sugar. You know what it is. It's called high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is gout on steroids. Stay away. We talked about it in a previous podcast. We talked about the effect of high fructose corn syrup that goes directly to your liver, except one little bypass, remember? It was fascinating. It creates leaky gut because it damages the little lining between your gut and your blood. We talked about that. High fructose corn syrup. Something we didn't know. I didn't know that before that study came out. I knew it fed yeast, but I didn't realize what it did to that barrier. Destroys it. See, it's a man-made sugar. But even fruit, I tell my patient, look, I remember a guy came into the office one time. I'll just tell you the story. He come in and he literally could not button up his shirt. His hands were so swollen. And he had trouble moving. Like he was so sore. And I said, well, you got high levels of uric acid. What? He said, well, I don't eat meat. I don't eat eggs and purines. And he said, I live on fruit. I said, that's your problem. That's your problem. And I got him to no more fruit. He was desperate. It was an easy conversion for him. I said, no fruit, no alcohol, no beer, no wine. I mean, he thought I walked on water because within a few days, all that inflammation was gone. And I said, well, look, it's just the way it is. Your insulin was way too high. And now you weren't peeing out your uric acid. And for you, it happened to hit you in the joints. Look, a lot of people have inflammation. It attacks the blood vessels. Their heart is going to be damaged. They don't know it. Doc, my cholesterol is normal. Yeah, that doesn't mean cholesterol has nothing to do with heart disease. Well, good cholesterol does. You need high cholesterol, for heaven's sakes. So, you get rid of alcohol, you get rid of fruit, and you can have a few berries, okay? Have a few strawberries, a few blueberries, but not a lot of them. It's the way it is. I know that's difficult for a lot of people because they see fruit, they start their day with fruit and everything. Look, I love fruit. I do. But you've heard my story before. I got diabetes coming out both my ears. family history. And see this face? I look like my father. Especially when I put a hat on. My wife says I married my father-in-law. They didn't call me Tony Jr. for nothing, you know. Anyway, my dad was diabetic. And I don't only look like him, I'm built like him in the inside, I guess. And you know what? I have to be very careful. And I learned years and years and years ago. I can't eat a lot of fruit. Because of my insulin, I have to be, you know, you can reverse diabetes. You can. Because diabetes is an allergy. It's simple. To carbs, to sugars. It's an allergy. If you look at it like that, that's how I used to explain it to my patients in the office. Listen, you got an allergy. Oh yeah? Yeah, well, get rid of something that causes your allergy. Okay. You and carbs are frenemies. You know what a frenemy is? You like it, but they don't like you. That's a frenemy. That's what fruit is to a lot of people. We live in a different world today. There's so much inflammation, but inflammation isn't Houdini. You have to go one step back. It's insulin. If you understand that, you understand everything that I do. I mean it. I know how to fix it because I know what the problem is. It's not Purines. Kidney stones. Kidney problem. It's inflammation caused by insulin. Joints. Look, if you hurt your knee playing football, I'm not talking about that. Muscles. Oh, I'm going to bring to you a really interesting study on muscles and insulin too. So guys, it's really important. So if you eat a low-fat diet, is that going to help you? Nah. It's not going to help you. If you want to take the medication, I'm not telling you not to take it, but I'm telling you how to fix it. So here's some steps you can do. Food. Do the reset. Lower your carbohydrates down to nothing. Lower your sugars to nothing. No juices. Nada. If you're going to make Dr. Martin's perfect smoothie, a few berries. That's it. Don't eat bananas and don't drink bananas. I know they taste good in a smoothie. I get it. I probably have about 2 to 3 bananas a year. I love bananas. I could have peanut butter and bananas. I don't even need the bread. Although I like bread. I'm just telling you all my weaknesses. But I got to be disciplined. I know me. I talk. When I put out a finger at you guys, remember, I got 4 of them pointing back to me. 1 at you and 4 at me. Because the reason I talk so loud is I'm trying to get my own attention. I started exercising when I was 17 years old. Because of my daddy. I never stopped. I stopped drinking soda at 17 years old. And I didn't drink anymore. I mean that. I just know me. I watched my father. The discipline. I had to, and I'm like him. So, and a lot of people are like me too. It's the biggest problem in the world today. It's not COVID. Okay? So lower your insulin, which will lower your inflammation. An anti-inflammatory diet is getting rid of carbohydrates, sugars, bread, pasta, rice, cereals, sugar, sweets, pastries, juice, milk, if it's bought in the grocery store, alcohol. Well, Dr. Martin, I got to have a glass of wine every night just because I worked hard and it relaxes me. Yeah, I understand that. I do. Have a coffee instead. With no sugar added. Okay? Now, one of the things that's inflammatory, and you see it right behind me here. See this 5 pounds of fat? This in itself, I have it in my hands right now. And for those who will listen to this on a podcast, I'm holding 5 pounds of fat. Very visible, very big. 5 pounds of muscle is small. 5 pounds of fat is huge. So when a patient tells me, Doc, I only, and ladies, you're the worst for this. Doc, I did the reset, but I only lost 5 pounds. Good for you. 5 pounds, look at how big it is. It's a foot long and about 6 inches wide. But when you lose that, you lose inflammation. This in itself creates inflammation, guys. Having that extra belly fat is an organ unto itself. When it's around your belly and on your hips and you lose 5 pounds and they're so disappointed. The reset, it didn't do it for me. I said, yes, it did. Metabolically, you lowered all your markers of inflammation. You lowered your insulin down to nothing. Your pancreas went to Hawaii on a holiday. You lowered your uric acid levels. You didn't even realize it. You lowered your homocysteine. You lowered your C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker, and so is homocysteine. It's an amino acid that breaks down when your inflammation is high. Homocysteine. And when your B12 is not high enough. Anyway, that's another discussion. So what do? For some people, they might have to cut out all their fruits temporarily. And then maybe just add a few berries later. You'll get used to it. I promise. I look at bananas in the grocery store and I go, I wish I could eat that stuff. I love them. It's one of the reasons I have long arms. I'm sure of it. But I can't have it. I don't have much. I just discipline myself. Do you think I don't love apples? I love apples. I can't remember the last time I had an apple. I allow myself some berries. For me, because like I said, when I preach to you, I'm preaching to me because of my problems. I would be in that 88% if I didn't discipline myself every day. I am preaching to you what I do. Personally, I have to. I have to. Anyway. Yeah. And one of the things, we talked about this yesterday, that oxalates do, and uric acid, they bind your minerals. And that's why I'm so big on adding Himalayan salts. I'm big on it. These things bind your minerals. You don't absorb your minerals properly because of that, what goes on, especially with oxalates. Your salads. Okay, I know I'm tough on you, but I'm just trying to tell you, and I was saying this to someone yesterday that I was communicating with, a health coach. And I said, you almost have to undo all the training you took. You almost have to undo all of it. Because it's not true. I think it's Proverbs 23 and 23. It's easy to remember. Get the truth and never sell it. I just got to tell you what the truth is. The news behind the news. And some people don't like it. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not really apologizing, but I mean, I'm sorry if it offended you. Some people get offended. It bothers them because they've been indoctrinated. Meat is bad, fruits are good. Ask Eve if fruit is good. I'm just teasing. Okay, so guys, appreciate you, okay? Share this with your friends. If you're listening to this on a podcast, give us a review. It's good, because then they share it even more. That's what happens with it. Social media is all about sharing. And this is why we appreciate when you do share this, okay? It gets the message out, and we appreciate that, okay? So, we got some good things coming, guys. We got some good things coming. I tell you, I was excited just sort of preparing, okay, in the next little bit. And see you then. So hopefully, Lord willing, we'll be with you tomorrow morning. Talk to you soon.